people that have a lot of difficulties with the story of Noah's Ark, and they're really good questions and concerns. We're just going to cover one aspect of the story today. How was Noah able to fit all the animals in the ark? Did you know that people also used to have trouble with the story of Jonah and the whale? Critics swore up and down that a man could not have possibly survived multiple days and nights in the belly of a whale, until it was found that a fisherman fell off his fishing boat and survived days and nights inside a whale. We're just beginning to learn the science of how these things could have happened. Sometimes we're a little too quick to naysay things because we don't know exactly how something could have happened and negate a miracle that people experienced a while ago. As I said before, Christianity doesn't disagree with microevolution, that is, changes in a species that develop over time. They disagree with macroevolution, though, where one species can change into another species. When we talk later about the species coming from a few animals at the family level, you have to think God the designer making changes over a short amount of time, like a computer programmer making adjustments to the code in his programs, or you're going to be confused. If evolution, a random chance process, were making changes in the DNA, that would take a very long time. But if it were God making adjustments to their DNA, like a computer programmer making adjustments to the lines of code in a computer program, then it necessarily wouldn't take a long time. A watchmaker could move the hour hand across the face of a clock in a few seconds after he's made a watch. Normally, the smaller hand would take 12 to 24 hours to move across the face of a watch, and the longer hand an hour if it was running. But the watchmaker could move it all around the face in seconds. It almost gives credence to the 6 days of creation, where the creator was creating or programming and designing things and putting them together in a short amount of time. After the flood, God could have started making changes to the animal's DNA that gave us all the species that we have today. And now let's talk about how Noah could have fit all the animals into the ark.
So how did Noah then fit all the animals on the ark? Now, honestly, I don't think this would be as much of a question if people would portray the ark accurately, okay? I think we get in problems when we show fairy tale arks and then try to imagine all those animals. But like I said, it's a very big structure, and its volume is equivalent to almost 500 semi-trailers. But, okay, that being said, there's a lot of animals in the world today. Modern estimates as far as how many species are in the world, it's somewhere between 2 and 50 million, and it could be more than that, okay? But we don't really know. The number that I've sort of seen that I think is the most reasonable estimate is about 8 million, okay? That's sort of the settled upon number right now. Now, here's the thing. If Noah had to take 2 of 8 million species on the ark, that's 16 million animals. So I found the worst picture I could possibly find, right, of Noah's Ark. So even with a biblically sized ark, you can't fit 16 million animals on there and their provisions. It's not going to work. But this is a question that we get a lot. Bill Nye, the science guy, when he debated Ken Ham on this very stage, was one of the questions he asked. You've got millions of species in the world. How could they all possibly fit on the ark? Well, let's answer that. And I have a threefold answer to that question. So the first part of that answer is, first of all, remember, he only had to take land-dwelling, air-breathing creatures. Okay, he didn't have to take any marine creatures because they've got plenty of water. And fish are actually quite speciose. There's a lot of species of fish in the world. So those numbers, that 8 million goes down significantly without marine creatures. Probably also doesn't include the insects, okay? Now, I'm sure with all those animals on the ark, they had bugs, okay? But the thing is that insects are technically not air-breathing, so probably didn't include the insects. Now, even if he did have to take them, they're not going to take up that much space, right? Okay, probably fit them in a small box. So it's going to be okay, even if he did have to take them. But again, if you go to our insectorium here in the museum, and that's just a small, tiny fraction, right, of the different species of insects that exist out there. Beetles alone are like hundreds of thousands of species. So if you take that number, insects and marine creatures, out of 8 million, that number is going to dramatically go down. And again, the reason I say that it's just air-breathing, land-dwelling creatures is because that's what Scripture says. It says the birds, the animals, and the creeping things, okay, will come to you to keep them alive. That's it. Okay, nothing else. Now, The next part of that answer, number 2, is that he probably brought young adults. And I would say God brought the animals to him, and then he took them actually on the ark. The reason for younger animals would be because they take up less space, they eat less, and they produce less waste. So all of those things are good when you're talking a survival cruise with a lot of animal cargo. The other reason is because they would have the longest reproductive life after the flood. And that's what you want, right? You're to multiply and fill the earth. Well, you don't want to take really old animals that aren't going to reproduce much. You want to take really young ones. And again, we know that reproduction was in mind here because of what God says, a male and a female to keep them alive on the face of all the earth. Okay, so that's what he was to do. Now, the last part of this question, which I think is this answer, which I think is the most important to understand, is that Noah had to take 2 of each kind, not 2 of each species. Okay, and that word "kind" is repeated over and over and over again here, as well as in the Genesis account of creation. We see that word. Now, what is a kind? Just like we said, what is a cubit? Well, when you think about our modern taxonomy and the way that we classify things, kind is we usually would say that's about the same as family. So hopefully you all remember this from biology class, right? Kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species is how we classify organisms. So we would say that kind falls at that family level, not genus and not species, okay? Not down here, not 8 million, but up here, which is significantly less at the family level. So just to give you an example of that, all dogs belong to the family Canidae. It doesn't matter whether you're talking foxes or wolves or coyotes or a chihuahua, they all belong to Canidae. Same with cats, okay? Whether you're talking a lion, a panther, a tiger, or a kitty cat, like you might have at home, those are all from the family Felidae. And the reason we say it's at the family level is because most members of a family, of the same family, can breed with one another and produce offspring. Okay, it's sort of a reproductive unit. The other thing is members of the same family all kind of look alike. Okay, just like maybe your family with your biological children and your grandparents and great-grandparents. There's similarities there, right? So you can kind of see that, oh yeah, those all belong to the same family. So there's a strong just presence of looking at them and saying that, as well as the fact that they can reproduce with one another. And we have some really good examples actually of this as what forms that family or that kind over at our petting zoo. So you need to go over there today and you need to see our Zorse and our Zonkey. Okay? Now, when you look at them, you're like, wait a minute, what is that? Kind of looks like a combination, which is basically what it is. These are what we call hybrids, right? So the brown one is a Zorse, and his parents, the parents there are a zebra and a horse. And then the Zonkey, of course, is a zebra and a donkey. Now, how is that possible? Because zebras, horses, and donkeys all belong to the family Equidae, okay? And they can mate with one another and produce offspring. Most of us are probably familiar with mules, okay, which is a donkey and a horse, okay? Same idea. And they all kind of look alike, okay? Even if you didn't know exactly what these were, you know there's some kind of horse, right? Something in that family, basically.